By the way, I'm Dick Cavett, and when I say that we have one of the most intriguing and well-trained U.S. ambassadors to the UN, you might expect a look at politics and international affairs or someone in a three-piece suit. But when that ambassador is singer, jazz singer, humanitarian, dancer, gourmet cook, author, mother, Georgetown graduate, Pearl Bailey, one knows that anything could happen here. And so here, without any ado at all, not even further, Pearl Bailey, right there. Almost.
You got my...
Did you...
Dick, I'm going to have to come back. I have watched you before. I have never seen this enthusiastic crowd. Is it you or... What is that? You or I or you or me? Which is it, Dawn?
Well,
it's us.
Is it thou, I think you should say. By the way, you saw me hesitate there not to call you Pearly May because people who pretend they know you do
Don't mean anything.
We went to great expense and brought all your classmates from childhood to the studio.
Oh, you have my group here, definitely.
How can you tell that?
Uh-huh. I can tell the way they're moving around.
Well,
this is wonderful, though. Now, when you had said that to me, Dick, to say my group, isn't it wonderful that we can all relate to something that brings that reality here? It's something that Miss Sophie Tucker said to me a long time ago, and it sits in this audience. It ain't how good you are, it's how long can you last.
That's it. Well, now, now, I would be the last person to argue with Sophie Tucker, but I would say in your case, how good you are has had a little something to do with how long you lasted.
Well, now, I lost a friend last November, a lady, the great horsewoman you must have known, Liz Whitney Tippett. And she left last November, and I was telling her this. She was very, very ill, and I had told her that at a point. Just before she was passing last November, she called me real quietly to the bedside. She said, you know what you told me about Sophie Tucker? I said, yes. Ain't how good you are, it's how long you last. She said, Pearly May, and there's a Pearly May for you. You got to be good to last.
Well, I'm glad our minds ran along the same lines.
That's wonderful. Well, you too. You're pretty lasting yourself. I know you don't want to be in our group, but you're close.
Am I getting there? Really? Listen. Are you implying I'm wearing a sup-hose leotard under all of this?
I had all that, honey.
Oh, by the way, let me, Miss Bailey, be the last to congratulate you on your college graduation, since I guess it's a little rather old news by now. But still, I would guess most people hearing that figure, oh, well, of course, yes, she got an honorary degree. You did get an honorary degree.
Well, I got the honorary degree from Georgetown in '78, and while I was making this wonderful speech, and I said, and remember, I'd seen this school. I was born in Virginia, left at 3, raised in Washington and Philadelphia. So I said, and I may come here someday because I saw this school at 3 years old. And right then, as the semester came in, I joined in as a freshman and went all the way through. And Dick, is for all of your listeners, you are never too old to learn. I think, really, look at us in all our marriages and things. You know, you think folks, a lot of husbands and wives, Dick, have nothing to talk about at home. You go to work, he goes to work, the children, and you have nothing to say. Why in some of those times don't you don't have to go to big shot college, community college, take one subject, husband or wife? Wouldn't it be nice to have something to come home, this is what I learned, and to talk? The trouble in family life today is no communication. Oh, my group is here. What am I doing here? They're doing it for me.
In your book, Between You and Me, you have a really eloquent chapter about that. But
family. It's falling apart in America today.
There's
no family. No communication, no authority, obedience, compromise. My mother had a statement, Dick, you must stand like, and my father, stand like an oak and bend like a willow. It meant, because the oak, you see, it falls, but it doesn't break. As you know, you're a very brilliant man. You don't fool me at all. You're brilliant. Well, and a willow bends, but it doesn't break. But our children today don't want to compromise. And when they ask you a question, they don't ask you because they want an answer. They ask you because they want you to say what they are thinking they're going to do already.
You're so good. I love you. What about the fact that people here would probably get the impression that everything in your life is nicely under control? I think that they might like to hear that you have some problems in your life just because you seem to be so confident and so full.
Had a great big problem. In '72, I medically died, so that's a pretty good problem right there.
Oh, let's explain that a little bit.
I
You
don't
said
know
one
the
time
big
there-
word medically for it, but you know what it was. It was in the heart. But I died. I died right in the ambulance. Louis in the front seat. My daughter, 11, was sitting beside me. They said, she's gone. Now, I had about 15 miles, as you know, California to Sinai. And Louis said, he says, is anything near here? And 6 blocks down the street. God, I'm sure, had placed a hospital, and they raced me down, and here I am. One day, one thing about what had happened to me came one day while dusting the house. And you talk about old-fashioned. My mother even washed the dust rags. I do, too. And I was in there looking for a dust rag, and I kept in a drawer in this bathroom, and I pulled out all this thing, looked like confetti, strings. What is this? Now, I know I didn't wash. There's nothing here but strings. It was the gown I had on that night, and which they had cut up to reach to get to me.
Or whatever to get
to me.
Wow, what a
so
souvenir.
That, and I've had a few other things. And if you got children, you have hurts. If you live every day, you have hurts. I'm on my way from this broadcast to have a knee replacement. There are pains that you have, friends that hurt, everybody. But there's a firm thing within my soul that if I don't hurt others, see, I think we live so much on selfishness. Why don't you just stop talking about what's happening to you and think about what's happening to some others? And you know what? All of a sudden, you won't have nothing.
It works, doesn't it? Yeah, well, it's another phrasing the golden rule, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
You've majored in philosophy.
No, I majored in theology.
Oh, in theology.
Can't you tell there's
even more-
preachers in here?
Well, then.
Papa was a preacher.
Yeah.
But the theology came because I was majoring in French. And I decided I'd had it in high school. But you remember, I'm out of school 40-some years when I said I would go in there. And I'd never been to college. I just went on in.
Let's repeat this.
Yes.
You went through college.
All the way. And now about 14 other degrees.
Yeah.
And from foreign countries. But what counts is the one you earn. Yeah. And I earned that. But you do, on that campus ground, there was no photographs, no celebrity, no theater. It was strictly student. Because you can do it. Everybody can do it. You got to go to school when I used to go when you had a desk, you know, and you sat. Now you got to go try to sit on one of them little seats like this, you know, at this age. And I wanted to know where to hang my coat. The first day was drizzling, and the kids sat on the floor. And I thought, my good coat down here on the floor. We had a cloakroom.
Right, a
But
cloak.
if you had, if you had a cloakroom, you know where you hang your coat.
Did you ever know one person to wear a cloak to school, but they always called it the cloakroom?
Yes.
Anyway, go ahead.
And you go in there now, darling, you would either be stabbed, cut, or raped. But they don't have cloakrooms. The kids got it on the floor.
Yeah.
You know, we had a nice square desk where you hid the pickle underneath.
Right, inkwells. But
Yes.
here you were slightly...
Oh, you are our age, inkwells.
I've read about him.
Inkwells threw it off.
I read about him in a history book. But there you were, an undergraduate. I mean,
Yes.
when the other kids were... Did you go out for cheerleader or pledge a sorority? or any
Sweetheart,
other-
I kicked up one day and took a whole tube of Bengay to bring the leg back down. No.
Wait,
Dick, I'm at the age now where something slips by and then it comes back, so you got to give me a break here.
Well, I have to give you a break here because we have a message. Maybe from Ben Gay, who knows?
No, but wait a minute, you got to let me finish this major.
Okay.
It's not, it was French. And the reason I switched to theology was I said it's easier to know the Lord than it is to know French, so I switched over to the Lord.
I was going to say that if you, in theology, did you deal with tough philosophical questions like why is God good to some people and not others, and why does
that's
he talk
not
to
true.
me and not others, and that kind of. Well, I mean, that's what they talk about.
Yeah,
in
but
philosophy
isn't it
class,
something? You hit on something I always say.
Why was he so
I
ornery to
told my
Abraham and
children that. They said, my son said, but this doesn't happen, that doesn't happen, Mom. I said, let me tell you something. God he may do it in different ways, but he is not prejudiced, and he thinks the same of you as anybody. And sometimes Louis and I get in a quandary with the children. Say, what do you do here? What should you do? So, Louis, if he takes care of me, as Miss Ethel Waters used to say, his eyes on the sparrow. Yeah. If he feeds the sparrow, then he'll take care of you. That's where it is.
Yeah. I was wondering if you would get in bull sessions at college with kids who wanted to argue these points with you.
Happened to me, you have to take one religious study at Georgetown. Mm-hmm. And I got into, Hebraic thoughts. Mm-hmm. And I went through about 13 subjects, plus tutoring, plus went to London, went to Leo Beck, which women were allowed at that time in with the rabbis, and all the way through. So I went all the way through all the prophet, but I went into it, I thought, yeah, this is it, the religion, the easiest subject, because Papa was a preacher. The first day I walk in this classroom is jammed, and one seat. I sat there, and as I walked in, this man was saying that Abraham argued with the Lord. Well, now I sat down, and I thought, Papa will kill me if I don't get out of this class. He's dead, but he'll come back and kill me. Argued with the Lord, and you all know that that's not our teaching. You would argue with the Lord. And I sat there until I couldn't take anymore, and I raised my hand. I come to old school where you raise your hand. Mm-hmm. This school, see, they sit back in the seat, lay there with the Coca-Cola can. There's another commercial. Whoops. With a can. Uh-huh. See, we got to keep the commercials out. And the soda, and they bring that in the classroom. They bring the coffee in the classroom. I never heard of that. So I was sitting there, and I finally said, Rabbi, can I ask you a question? When you say argue with the Lord, I was trying to dress it up. You mean he actually, did he argue with the Lord? Or do you mean he discussed? He said, well, he discussed with the Lord. That helped me so much. And I stayed for all the rest of my terms. As long as he didn't argue, but he discussed. It got a little tight, but he discussed.
I have a feeling you could wise up a lot of rabbis if you took your...
Oh, yes. I became one almost doing it.
By the way, there's another gentleman in the audience. It's a big day for us here. One of the great jazz stars of all time, who somewhere in the past took a notion to marry you, or you him.
Yes. I don't know. It happened in 4 days.
You don't know who's to blame?
No, because it happened in 4 days.
In 4 days?
Yeah, I had lived in a house where Juan Tizal, the great Juan Tizal, who wrote Caravan, Perdido.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I went to California, Sodom and Gomorrah, I call it Sodom and Gomorrah. Oh, yes. I lived out there. I live in Arizona now. And it was so wild. You said in California, there was earthquakes. Well, sweetheart, have you really seen my Jaguar? It goes right on over. It's like
that's their first concern. Have you seen my Jaguar?
Out of touch with reality. See, and I deal in truth.
I think this
is... And back to the religious subject. That is my religion. People say, well, are you born again? Are you true again? Are you this? My religion, my religious belief is, first, I believe in God. But I believe that religion is action. I can tell Dick Cavett I love him all my life. Mm-hmm. But I've got to do something about that.
All right.
But about that gentleman and the marriage...
Did I just see Louis Bellson?
You sure did. You know what happened? I lived in his house. I lived there. Now, one day Rose Tizal says to me, I'm out there to do something. I didn't go out there often. I was still an Easterner at that time. Yeah. And she says, there's a nice fella, and he lives here. He and Juan were with the Harry James Orchestra at the time. Then Louis was with Duke. I said, he was a Duke. I said, no, I never met him. I don't want to meet anybody right now. I was coming up for one of them hard romances, you understand? So I go to Washington, D.C. at the Howard Theater, you mentioned it, and I went back to tell Juan. His wife said hello. I was leaving California. They came across the street, and I'm sitting at the wheel of my car, and Juan, I said, your wife said, give you a kiss. And then a fella had walked in the back of the car. He reversed and came and said, hi, my name is Louis. I said, my name is Pearl. I was open at the Cavacus in Washington, D.C. They put tablecloths even on for me. Well, sailors usually came there, but they put a tablecloth in a rose. It helped the club look a little better. And the sailors took off their caps. And this fella came with Juan that night. Neither one of them drank. They're poor customers. They both drank water. And then about the third night, we went outside between shows and sitting in the car, and they were going to leave town to Howard. And he said, I was going to ask you a question. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, well, he said, so. I said, well, I know what the question is. He said, well, if you know what it is, I said, do you know what it involves? He said, yes. Without hesitation, yes. I said, well, he said, well, if you know what it involves, what's the answer? I said, it's all right with me. If it's all right with you. He said, but I was going to say, let's get married. I said, I already answered you. That's right. That's right. And I went to London, and Louis came, had a 2-week vacation. He came to London. We were married in London. That was November 38 years ago.
Wouldn't it be? Maybe. Wouldn't it have been embarrassing if the question was going to be, what is the capital of North Dakota?
I wouldn't have known.
And you would have said, I've already...
Yeah, well,
So
that's
you
the
got
kind of
married
human
without me?
being that Louis is.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was just, I guess...
Perhaps you were meant for each other.
Describe it any way you want. I guess it was just love. And don't think that it's all tippy-tippy to the tulips there.
No.
Sometimes you have disagreements, you have this and that, but you've got to reach, after a while, you get to that understanding. And something recently happened to Louis, who has never been sick, and it just happened. He's on the 5th week of recuperation, though he's playing now. And that night, May 8th, when the operation came, he'd never been sick. Just like that, it was quick. And I was in I started to say hotel down, motel, and I started to get classy on here, but it was a motel.
Okay.
And he's laughing. Well, when I play with a symphony orchestra, I say they're the hotel type,
It's a
and I'll
hotel
type the
then.
motel.
All right.
And all of a sudden, around 11:45, and a few things come, Dick, in life. It isn't all laughter. If you ask me, it's all laughter. You make phone calls, you talk, and if you want to find out about people, get broke or get sick. You'll find out where friends, family, and all come from.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I had a few bruises in between some of those phone calls, and I suddenly just sat up, and the dark of night, I wouldn't be going out in anybody's street at 11:45. I just had this robe, put a little raincoat over it, and over to the Pennsylvania hospital I went. And all of a sudden, here's this man coming out. Right, remember, this is the day he's operating on. He's coming out of it. And oh, there you are. What are you doing here? And I said, I came to be with a friend. So a husband doesn't have to be just a husband or a lover. It's a friend.
Try friend. That could work. Yeah. Can you apply your persuasiveness and philosophy and personality in a really tough way? What about a kid who once says, I can make much more money selling drugs than I can anything else? I'd be a fool not to, and everybody else is doing it. Try and talk me
One of
out
the
of it.
saddest things in the world is what sometimes those who think they can go out and do it the easy way. You know, drugs, they make you think you are what you are not. That's true. We need, when we talk of role models and all, we're going to have to, in order to help these children come out of these things, the second part of my new book, there's a part, if you remember, called There's Nobody Home.
That's
I mean,
right.
head and heart. If we don't get, I know we say, well, I have to work for the necessity of life and my husband has to work. But somebody better hurry up and take a few hours off and get in these homes so the children can see. So if Dick, remember, if nobody, you say, well, the father has to be the role model. But the role model is between you two. But not many children get much role model when they come home and find Papa washing dishes, you know, or scrubbing the floor. You know,
Television.
You don't have to clap all the time. We know you love us. I thought I'd come out here among pearls in my age group, but you wanted to finish. We had to cut there on the subject of
a
drugs.
split second to say the thing about drugs that I want every parent in here and all of those who listen to you, and believe me, you got a lot of listeners, keep something in mind. Sweetheart, you watch it, because when they're using drugs, your children or anybody around you is using, they can talk to you so straight, they can lie to you so straight, they can shake their heads, they can say, have more excuses than anybody in the world. When it gets that time, oh, I'll never touch it again. Watch it. Watch it. I'm with Bill Cosby on that. You can, you love your children, you love, but sweetheart, watch it. Watch
Good advice. The lady here wanted to say something to you.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Bailey. I just wanted to say to you that, well, I've known you a long time, when you were fooling around in Harlem. And
I
We
know
don't
your
talk about
face.
that.
we won't talk about that. But I want you to know that we love you. And you're really a credit to us.
Oh,
And we haven't forgotten it. And
Thank
you're just as beautiful today as you were then.
and I remember
Right.
your face.
Pretty good.
Thank you. I know her
You didn't know
face.
it was your birthday, did you? There.
I know it's her face. Yes.
Yeah, old friends. You know, beloved entertainer is one of those cliches that gets tossed around all the time, and I can think of 2 or 3, and you're certainly one of them. And there are people you love to see perform, but people have a real affection for you.
But
Can
Dick,
you feel it?
have to. I always said, Louis said, and E.B., my road man, said, "Don't you feel it?" I said, "I don't know what's going on." I went in the studio the other day, and the man said, "Look at the love just came in." But whatever it is, I don't know about it, but I don't want to know about it. Because I might misuse what others feel for me. So
Yeah.
I just feel it. All I pray, God, is
Don't knock it.
to give it back. To give it back.
Back. You read a book a day on the average. I'm
Just
impressed
about
by that.
needlepoint,
Yeah.
crochet, cook, wash, iron, scrub the floor. That's why my knees go.
I mean, it's housemaid's knee and not performer's knee?
I love to read, and I work with Barbara Bush along that. Our children can't read, they can't spell. We're not giving them the things that they need. And how do you say you get them home to do it? Because we inspire them. Real quick, I hate doing these commercials free, but let's face it. I wrote a cookbook too. When we get up in the morning, if you say you have to go out for the necessities of life, Dick, why can't you get up, a family for your children? You get up, you got to be at work at 9, the children got to go to school. Get up, cook a hot, I didn't say instant, 3 minutes to take to cook oatmeal, sit down somewhere, it's the big thing now for diet. Sit down, have 4 of you eat that oatmeal, and can't you spend a few minutes in each other's company?
Seems to be hard for some people to do, but it apparently pays off.
That's right.
Well, you said earlier if you could do anything for me, you can come back once a week at least, and that would be fine.
I would love
We have
it.
run out of time.
I would love it.
So it's relative when you're here. Pearl
But
Bailey.
we haven't run out of love, though.
I hope not. No, it's running out of us. Thank you. Pleasure to see you.